Good evening. Let there be sound. Good evening, and welcome to those of you who are watching this video on demand. We'll be getting started shortly. We have a very special Sunday night edition of Maddie's Rap with your favorite author and storyteller, Matt D. Talford. Okay. We're going to be going over a couple things tonight. We're going to use the community post that I posted earlier today. And by the way, today's date is Sunday, April 7th, 2024. Okay. And we're less than what? Actually, we're less than 24 hours away from one of the biggest celestial events in hey, what's up, Anye? What's up? Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. We're less than 24 hours away from one of the biggest celestial events to hit the North American skies in probably about 7 years. So but we're gonna get started off with some music here. And as soon as I get about maybe 4 or 5 people in, we're gonna get started because I got a hot program for you guys tonight. Okay. All right. This is more that year eight, more that 8 year energy, 2024, more of that 8 year energy of revelations. All right. We're going to be doing some revelations. And if you're looking at the title of this video, historian Flavius Josephus was not a Greek convert. This ancient battle tactic proves it. You're going to know. You're going to know by the end of, well, you probably already kind of have an idea of what we're going to be talking about tonight. But you are definitely going to learn something new tonight. Okay. And we're going to use the eye test. We're going to use the eye test. Too many people are listening to too many different narratives about different things that were recorded in history. And we know that a lot of history of certain people was removed, and when not removed, changed. What's up, Tora girl? Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for joining. If that history was not completely removed or erased, it was changed. Okay, it was changed and rebranded to look differently. We're gonna talk about that tonight. All right. So you are watching Maddie's Rap with your favorite author and storyteller, Matt D. Talford, and I'm happy to have you guys with me tonight. I'm going to turn some music on while we're waiting for a few more people to jump into this live. Okay, stand by. And y'all know how I do it. I got some royalty free music in here tonight because I don't feel like talking to the copyright police on YouTube tonight. So this is royalty free, and I hope you guys enjoy this little kind of upbeat jazz selection that I got for you guys tonight. All right, I'm gonna wait for a few more people to join, and I'll tell you what. If we don't get those numbers where I want them at the 5 minute mark, we're just gonna get started anyway. Okay. Again, you are watching your favorite author and storyteller, Matt D. Talford. Welcome, welcome. So our girl said, I'm eager to hear the answer to the question. That question is going to be answered in the narrative, okay? All right, I'm going to read that, in fact. I'm going to read it. I'm going to tell you guys what I think, and then we're gonna answer that in the narrative. So I got a very nice lineup for you guys tonight. For those of you who are watching this video on demand, and for the 3 people in the room tonight right now, I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you guys what the layout, what the playbook is going to look like for tonight. Okay, so y'all know I always start off with some scripture. I'm going to be reading some prophetic scripture because, again, y'all already know. Oh, there we go. There she is, y'all. There she is. Sharon Yashar L. Thank you for joining tonight. Shalom. Shalom. We got people say it differently. However you say it is good over here. Okay, righteous love and blessings to all. Like the music. Thank you. So y'all know. What have I said for the last 2 years? Even if your pastor is not speaking on prophecy and identity, you probably need to find some place to go because everything else is expired. Okay, all of the prosperity gospels expired, and you know what? I'm just now being reminded that I need to switch my network. So hang on a second, family. I'm gonna go. Probably gonna freeze for just a moment, but we're gonna be right back in. Okay. All right, family. I had to switch over to my 5G hotspot. My hotspot at home sometimes is flaky. It's funny, and I'm at my home office tonight. I'm not in my office where I've got fiber, which is super high speed. But anyway, let me get ready to turn this music down, and we're gonna get started tonight. So y'all already know how I do it. I start off with a little bit of scripture, and then we're gonna do some prophecy, some prophetic scriptures. That music sounds so good. I almost don't want to turn it down. I'm kind of grooving over here, y'all. It's a Sunday night. We grooving. The shout out to Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks for winning another championship and going 38-0. Shout out. They did their thing out there, y'all. They did their thing. I was watching that earlier today, but this music sounds so good. I almost want to just play DJ tonight, but y'all didn't come here to hear me play DJ. So we're gonna get this thing started. All right. Let me switch it over. I'm gonna turn this off. All right, so here we go. That was a nice mix. That was a nice. I love it too. I'm telling you, it sounds so nice. It's kind of mellow. Just kind of that's the mood I'm in right now. I'm kind of in a mellow mood, y'all. We got a fantastic, phenomenal event coming up tomorrow. And there's a lot of people talking about it all around the world, which is interesting, because you got people in other countries. I'm listening to some narratives from people that live overseas, and they're talking about this. They're talking about this eclipse that's going to be happening over these United States on tomorrow, and there's certainly some biblical precedent for that. Go SC State. That's right. That's right. That's right. They did their thing. So yeah, there's some biblical precedent for that. There's some scripture that kind of talks about why that is. I might save that for another video because I want to keep this one about the subject matter. And that is, I want y'all to leave. I want the takeaway for tonight to be that you understand the title. Flavius Josephus was not a Greek convert. Okay. And that ties into the question that I asked on the community post. So I'm going to bring that community post up. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and read that passage of scripture. We're going to put it up on the screen, y'all. Thank y'all for being here tonight. I love y'all. Y'all are the faithful. Y'all are the faithful ones. Y'all here every time. Rain, snow, sleet, or shine. Y'all here every time. So I appreciate y'all. All right. Now let's y'all know we're gonna do Jeremiah 16 and 19. I got another one I'm gonna read, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it crunk here. We're gonna get it crunk. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, same place. All right, let's do this. All right, let's get this scripture up, y'all, and let's get ready to get this started. Actually, I don't want to use that one. I'm going to use this one right here. All right. Let's go to table of contents, Jeremiah 16th chapter. All right. KJVA. Okay. Now, here we go. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Let's get it started. All right. All right. Here we go. Exciting program for y'all tonight. We're going to learn something tonight. Hopefully, we learn something every time I go live. All right. We're going to go to Jeremiah, the 16th chapter. We're going to begin at the, let's see. Let's start at the 14th verse, y'all. Let's start at the 14th verse right here. All right. Hopefully, y'all can see that on the screen and the print's not too small. Here we go. Jeremiah 16 and 14. Prophecy. This is what's on deck, y'all. This is what's on deck. And I think the trigger point is tomorrow's eclipse. Let's read. Therefore, verse 14, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. Verse 17, for mine eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from mine eyes. And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land. They have filled mine inheritance with with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. Let me go back for just a moment before I continue, because y'all know that 16 and 19 is like one of my favorite prophetic verses anyway. But let's go back to verse 15. But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Okay. I stopped there because there are so many people that are spinning these narratives that the real children of Israel were scattered by somebody other than the Most High himself. Okay. I'm gonna say this. This may rub some people the wrong way, but I'm gonna get started. All right. Let's look. If we're gonna rub, let's rub. Let's rub. It's Aries season. Only a God can scatter another God. I'm gonna say that again. Only a God can scatter another God. Only the Most High God can scatter a lesser God, a lower God. Okay. All right. So let's clear that up right there, because there's a lot of people that are giving credit to forces to whom the credit is not due. Okay. So because we're in an 8 year, y'all know eight, that's the infinity loop. Things that go out, they come back. Okay. What goes around comes around. So this is the part where the Most High calls back the driving out and the scattering of the children of Israel. Let's keep going. But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. Fishers and hunters do two very different things. Okay. It's kind of the same. I mean, if you want to look at it, some people kind of look at it as the same, but fishers and hunters do two very different things. Fishers gather, hunters seek and destroy. The fishers are on deck. The fishers are they that are going to bring the children of Israel up out of the land of the north and from all the lands whether they've been driven. The hunters, they're the ones that are going to do the work that begins in verse 17, okay, that has to deal with verse 17. The fishers are going to bring out the children of Israel from where they were scattered. The hunters are going to deal with some folks that need to get dealt with, okay? For mine eyes, verse 17, for mine eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face. Who? The ones that's going to get dealt with. Neither is their iniquity hid from mine eyes. And first I will recompense or pay back their iniquity and their sin double. All right. What do I say? You get out what you put back in abundance, is right here. And first I will repay their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land. They have filled mine inheritance with the carcasses or dead bodies of their detestable and abominable things. And then verse 19 is my favorite. O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge, in the day of their affliction. I know the word there is not there, but y'all ride with me. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Shall a man make gods unto himself, and they are no gods? What did I just say? I said it takes a big God to scatter a smaller God. All right. Shall a man make gods unto himself, and they are no gods? Who's the they? I'll let y'all figure that out. I'll let y'all play with that. Verse 21. Therefore, behold, I will this once cause them to know. I will cause them to know mine hand and my might, and they shall know my name. All right. All right. Let me get that off of there. That was Jeremiah 16 and 14 through 19 through 21. All right. So, or was it 15? Let me go back. Y'all know I'm a Mercury and Sagittarius. I'll see it and forget it like 2 seconds later. All right. Yeah, it was 14. Jeremiah 16 and 14 through 21. Okay. All right. So now, here's what I want to do. I want to give y'all an example of something here that I y'all know I'm always on here talking about the importance of staying high vibrational. This is just this is the movie trailers that you see before the movie, okay? All right, for those of y'all that are waiting to hear about Josephus and waiting to hear about this the quiz, the cultural little IQ test that I put on my community post earlier, which I'm about to bring up in just a moment. For those of y'all that are waiting for that, it's coming. But I got to do these movie trailers first, all right? Jojo Mac, what's up, brother? What's up, Jojo? What up, family? Hope all is well. Go Purdue, boiler up. Did you see the newscasters talk about an earthquake eclipse? No, I did not see that. I did not see that, Jojo. Wow. Anya, Mercury and Sagittarius, you already know. So check this out. Here we go. Let me do this real quick because I got to give y'all this example. I'm always on here talking about staying high vibrational, the importance of remaining high vibrational. And I got to give y'all an example. So check this out. Today, I'm out in the backyard, doing yard work, just cleaning up some old debris and stuff like that, cutting grass, trimming, all of that stuff, you know what I mean? And there's this. Now wait, let me set it up. Let me take y'all back a little bit because the thing is I went to the hardware store last week and I went in there to get some more ant spray, some more ant and what do you call it? Ants and flying no, it wasn't flying bug. It was ant spray because I got, some it's that time of year, y'all. You get ants around you get the little ant hills and stuff like that coming up around the patio and stuff like that. So I want to deal with these ants on the outside of the house. So I go there to get some ant spray, and they got a special at this particular hardware store. You can get one can of spray for I think it was like $5.99, or you could get 2 cans of spray for $8. And so I was like, oh, like 2 for $8, that's a better deal. Let me get this can of ant spray. And even though I didn't come in here for it, let me get this can of flying bug spray. What's up, Hotshot? Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here tonight. So I'm like, I can get this can of ant spray, and I can get this other can of flying bug spray. And so when I reach for the can of flying bug spray, the spirit speaks to me and says, you don't need that. And so I was like, oh, so I don't touch it. But y'all know that flesh, you see a deal, you want to get it. So I turn back around and I'm like, I don't know what that voice was that told me not to get that. I don't need it. Let me go get it again. Go to reach for it. Let me get that. You don't need that. You don't need it. Put it back. All right. So I'm like, hey, look, I trust you. I trust you, Holy Spirit. I'm going to go on about my business. I get the 1 can of ant spray, whatever. So I'll take it back home, whatever. Boom. Here we are. Fast forward to this week. I'm in the backyard. I'm doing my gardening. Okay. And I'm going to tell y'all, I don't fear nothing, but I don't like wasps and I don't like yellow jackets. All right. I've seen the damage they can do to people. Okay. Thank God I'm not allergic to any stings or anything like that. But I never forget the sight of my dad getting stung in the ear by a wasp when I was a kid, and his ear blew up bigger than this ear cup on these headphones. And I'm like, I've always kind of had a little bit of an aversion to wasps after seeing that as a little boy. And so this wasp starts flying around, and this happened on 2 different occasions out here, y'all. This wasp starts flying around, but I'm not fearing it because I know fear is a low vibration, and when you are low vibrational, you're going to attract something that is low vibrational. So I just calm myself, and I'm like, you know what? That wasp ain't gonna bother me. And I close my eyes, and I just imagine a field, an auric field of this high vibrational spinning energy pushing away everything that's low vibrational. And lo and behold, y'all wait for it. Lo and behold, after saying that wasp ain't gonna come near me, a bumblebee comes out of nowhere and chases that wasp away. A bumblebee, a whole bumblebee. And I was like, wow, this is real. This high vibrational stuff is real, y'all. I'm telling you. So then, I go on, I'm doing some more. I move to another section of the yard, and I see this big freaking yellow jacket. And his yellow jacket is flying around, and I'm like, I'm not scared. He's not going to sting me. He's not going to sting me. And so I send, it's like I send a signal out. I'm just thinking to myself, and then I open up my mouth and I say, Bumblebee, I need you to show up and get this. I need you to get this, come deal with this yellow jacket. He's bothering me. I'm trying to work. The bumblebee comes again and chases away the yellow jacket. All right. He chases away the yellow jacket, and then he flies away. Did that same yellow jacket try to come back? That bumblebee came back like, oh, you back over here again? I didn't see that bumblebee anymore. I didn't see it anymore. So now I understand why I did not need that flying bug spray. Okay, so that's for somebody. Listen, the season we're in now, y'all. Some of these abilities are being unlocked. So if you out there, y'all, you got something that, yeah, that really happened, hot shot. That really happened. So if you got something, it's getting a little warm in here. If you got something that is bothering you, you can summon something from nature and deal with it. Yo, I'm telling you, yeah, that was mind blowing for me. So I wanted to come on here and share that with y'all because I know I'm always on here talking about the importance of being high vibrational, and there it is for you right there. There it is. Now let's move on because I know y'all are ready for the meat. I know y'all ready for the meat. So I wanted to share that with y'all, and we're gonna jump right in here. Something's telling me not to read this other scripture I wrote down, so I'm gonna save that for another live. We're gonna jump right into this. All right. Now, let me go ahead and bring it up because I know y'all ready to see it. Let me go ahead and bring up this what do you call it here? I'm gonna save that because that's coming up in just a minute. Let's bring up that community post. Thank y'all for being here tonight, by the way. And for those of y'all that are just coming on, you're watching Maddie's Rabbit, author and storyteller Matt D. Talford. All right. And by the way, y'all, if y'all haven't done so already, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Okay. It helps other people know that we're live right now. So hit that like button. Okay. Now, let me bring this up on the screen and we're going to read it. All right, we're gonna do this together, and a bunch of y'all. Thank you for those of you who responded to the post. The majority of y'all had the same answer. I'm gonna bring it up on the screen right now, and we're going and then you're gonna see how this applies to the subject matter. Okay. All right. All right. Here we go, y'all. Hopefully you can see this. This is my community post from earlier, and it reads, "And now for a little test of cultural IQ." And this is for those of you that have not seen this community post. I know how the YouTube algorithms work. You don't always see the community post as much as you see the videos. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. For those of you for whom this is redundant, my apologies. Please bear with me. Here we go. And for a little test of cultural IQ, and the smirk little icon there. 3 chefs, 1 Asian, 1 Caucasian, and the third, so-called black, are all working in an urban restaurant kitchen when suddenly some 6'5" deranged man comes charging into the kitchen from the alley outside, brandishing a broken wine bottle and threatening to harm all 3 of them if they don't give him money. Each of the chefs is courageous and knows they have seconds to respond before one or all 3 of them are hurt. One of them reaches for his concealed weapon and threatens to shoot if the man doesn't turn around and leave. One reaches for a chef's knife and threatens to cut the assailant if he doesn't turn around and leave. One grabs a pot filled with hot grease and threatens to throw it on the assailant if he doesn't turn around and leave. Which of those 3 is most likely to throw the hot grease on the 6'5" deranged man? And of course, I urge you to leave your answer in the comments. And a bunch of people left some pretty interesting comments. Okay. I was loving all of them. Okay. Tora girl, your comments right there. She said the white chef because it's less face-to-face contact, it's hit and run. Someone said the so-called black chef. I will venture to say the so-called black person will throw the hot grease. I say this because many of us heard of a relative back in our grandparents' or great grandparents' day throwing hot grease as a way to attack or defend. Latasha, I love that answer. I don't know if you're on the live tonight or if you're watching this on demand, but and then another person there, Laurice, said, "I say the so-called black chef." All right. Let me give y'all Maddie's. Jojo said Daniel 12:4. The books are being unsealed and the spell is over. That's right. Let me tell y'all what Matt said. Now I wrote it, so y'all probably know I already had in my mind who it was. Of course, that brother grabbed that pot of hot grease and threw it on. Bruh, if you don't get up out of here, you about to get a grease bath, all right? And you ain't gonna like it, all right? That was the brother. Y'all know that. Y'all know that. Al Green, hot grits. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Hey, y'all already know who probably got it concealed. All right. I ain't saying that brothers and sisters don't have concealed because I know many of them that do. Okay. But in that scenario, it's the Caucasian chef that's probably in my book. I mean, I'm as the author, it's the Caucasian chef that's probably more likely to pull out the concealed. It's the Asian guy that's probably more likely to grab that chef knife. And that brother, he going straight for that hot grease, y'all. Okay. Now, I'm I'm gonna share with you guys why I did that. Okay, we're gonna talk about why I put that up there. Um, we're gonna get ready to read something here. She said, I thought so, but I just didn't want to put it on my people." Anya said, "Not the hot grits." Yeah, Al, come on, Al. Hey, listen, I have cooked hot grits in my boxes before, and it that grits popped and caught me on the inside of my thigh. That was not a good feeling. That was not a good feeling. I only did that one time. I didn't have that problem anymore. Okay, that was not. Them hot grits do not play. They don't hot nothing, but grits they stick. All right. So, let me read a little history of Flavius Josephus, and then I'm going to get into this battle, what I like to call the Battle of the Hot Grease. Okay, y'all gonna know where I'm going, and y'all gonna know why I'm doing this. Okay, by the end of this, you're gonna know where I'm going and why I'm doing this. Let's get on to this. Okay. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. This is Wikipedia, but they're also some people don't like Wikipedia because they're like a bunch of people can what do you call it, add to it and this, that, and the third. I got sources from Britannica and worldhistory.org, blase, blase, blah. You know what? In fact, I'm going to bring up the worldhistory.org. Okay. Now, and I may even add a video in here. You know what? Y'all like these TikTok videos. Let me throw a TikTok in here on y'all real quick. Let me throw one TikTok on y'all real quick here. Stand by. Let's do this. Okay. Let's share this. Come on through. Come on through, Bluetooth. I didn't think I was gonna show y'all this video tonight, but I'm gonna go ahead and show it to y'all. It's coming in right now. Okay, airdrop. You took long enough. All right, let's do this. This one I think is going to summarize it. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up right now, and I'm going to share it with you guys. I had some more, but I'm just going to do this one. Okay, this sister is Judy Boutine, I think it is. TikTok, y'all check her out. Let me go ahead and share this. Setting it up for y'all. Setting it up before we go in. Let's do it.
So the Renaissance photos are very trendy on TikTok right now. Black people, you need to understand what the Renaissance is, okay? It was the whitewashing of our art. Let's get into it. Okay, here's one photo. You can actually find the photo on the left in the Vatican. Here's another photo. And another. Here we are. And there's some dates there so you can see. Okay, Russia never ever went through the Renaissance, so all of their paintings are still the same to this day. Unlike Western European countries, Russian art skipped the Renaissance, which means the paintings are in their natural form, never been whitewashed.
All right, that's all I got, family. That's all I got on that. All right, y'all gonna understand why I'm doing this. I'm setting the backdrop for you right now. I'm setting the backdrop. Okay, all right. I'm pulling the ingredients in. When you make pancakes, you don't just get up and say I want some pancakes and then boom, there they are. You got to get your flour, you got to get your eggs, you got to get your oil, your whatever, your milk, whatever you're gonna use. I use almond milk or oat milk in mine or whatever. But you got to get your leavening, your baking powder, whatever you're gonna do, you got to get all that laid out before you, and then you got to get your pot. You got to get that cast iron skillet. I know some of y'all like the non-stick stuff. I like my pancakes in the cast iron skillet. You got to put that oil in there. You got to set it up before you pour that batter. You got to whip that batter together. Okay. You got to do all of that before you put it on that pan. Okay. Tora Girl said, so true. The rebirth there. Listen, when you understand the period of when the Renaissance happened on the heels of the Moors, the so-called Moors, being driven off the Iberian Peninsula after having ruled Europe for 700 years. Okay, that's kind of when that happened. Okay, So let me get rid of that distraction there. So yeah. Right after, and there's a documentary I saw on, I want to say it was Amazon Prime Video some time ago that said, I think it was titled "When the Moors Ruled Spain." And in that documentary, they talked about the massive book burning that happened after the Moors were driven off the Iberian Peninsula. The Moors being a collective of Ishmaelites and Israelites. Okay, all right. History doesn't call them that. History doesn't call them that, but let's call it what it is, because this is an 8 years about revelation. That scorpionic energy. We going in the dark and pulling the truth out. That's where we at right now. So let's continue on. Yeah, the Moors, the so-called Moors, ruled Europe for 700 years. Okay, and then after that came the Renaissance. Hey, let's erase all knowledge, if possible, of who were the previous rulers. It's a right that's afforded to you when you win in combat. It is what it is, but that doesn't make it right. Okay, it's a right that's afforded to you, but that doesn't make it right. All right, non-stick makes you sterile and infertile. Thank you for putting that up there, Monk Mode. That is very true. That is very true. And nothing tastes like cast iron. When you cook in cast iron, it's a whole different party. Okay, so now let me bring this up on Josephus here. Let's see where we at. Let's get into the meat now, y'all. I showed y'all enough trailer. Let's get into the meat. Thank y'all for being here tonight, and thank you for your patience. All right. Let me bring this up. Titus Flavius, this is from worldhistory.org. Titus Flavius Josephus, who lived from 36 AD or CE to 100 CE, was born Yosef or Yashef, whatever some people want to call it, Yosef ben Mattiyahu. Yosef ben Mattiyahu. Titus Flavius Josephus was born Yosef ben Mattiyahu and became a 1st century CE Hebrew historian. Okay? He was a member of a priestly household in Jerusalem through his father's side, the house and order of Jehoiarib, and his mother was of royal descent, Hasmonean. He was educated in Jerusalem and most likely shared ideology and sympathy with the party of the Pharisees. Okay. All right. The writings of Josephus are crucially important for several disciplines. Second Temple Judaism in the 1st century CE, background sources for the early history of Christianity, historical details of the client kings of the Roman Empire in the East, and the line of the Julio-Claudian emperors in Rome. In the last decades of the 1st century CE, he wrote The Jewish War around 75 CE, Antiquities of the Jews around 95 CE, Against Apion around 97, and The Life of Flavius Josephus in 99. All right, let me take that off the screen. So, I have been saying for the longest, because I hear a lot of brothers teaching this, and they're like, people want to run to Josephus, or people want to call out Josephus and quote him. It's time to take the narrative back and tell the truth about who Josephus was. I said that in a lot of cases. I said, look, Matt Talford is not. That sounds European. That sounds real European. So if God forbid something happened and 1,000 years from now they took my books and whitewashed the cover and left the name there, you would think this was a Caucasian dude that wrote that story in there. Okay, and I got pictures in there. If they wiped all them pictures out, if they went in there and wiped all these pictures out, okay, and whitewashed them, you would think that with that name, he was Caucasian. So let's bring it back, y'all. We know what happened in the Renaissance. Let's bring it back. First of all, people think he was Greek because the name Flavius Josephus sounds Greek. It also sounds Roman. He took on, if I continue to read, and some of y'all can look this up. If I were to continue to read, you would learn that he dropped his Hebrew name, okay, and took on the name of he took on a Roman name. He took on a Roman name, and there's a whole lot of history about him. I don't want to get too deep into it, but basically, he became a ward, if you will, of I'm calling him a ward, even though he was considered, I I mean, basically a Roman convert. They brought him in. He got his Roman citizenship. This was after the war ended. Uh, he took on Roman culture, full on Roman culture after the defeat of the people from whom he was from. Okay, now let's get into this. All right. And thank you to those of you who have complimented me on the reading, the scripture reading I did from the Book of Jubilees, or the Book of Jasher rather, when I was reading about the Tower of Babel. I really appreciate that. I hope you guys will enjoy this reading tonight. Okay, I'm gonna try to fly through this. This is old style writing, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it here because you're gonna learn something here. This is the battle. This is what Matt calls the battle of the hot grease. Okay, but the truth is, to set this up, this was the battle of a city, an ancient city called Jotapota or Jotapota. I don't know what the correct pronunciation would have been back then. It wouldn't have been with a J. Probably would have been Yatapata or something like that. But this was a battle where Josephus was actually the general fighting against the Romans. Okay, so we need to understand this stuff. Why? Because I feel like everybody should have a copy of the complete works of Flavius Josephus. Why? Because when you read Antiquities of the Jews, it's like the Old Testament on steroids. It's like the Old Testament on steroids, or it's like looking at the Old Testament under a microscope, where you can see a lot more than what's in the standard 66 books. Okay, so let's get on it. All right, let's get a sip of water here and keep it moving. This is the writing. This is Wars of the Jews from the writings of let's see. Yes, this is Wars of the Jews from the writings of Flavius Josephus. And here we go, library. Yeah, here we go. Go to. So this is the Wars of the Jews, or the history of the destruction of Jerusalem. This is book 3 and chapter 7. Okay. Book 3, chapter 7. Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, yes, this is book 3, chapter 7. So let me just back it up for you guys that have this app. This is the Bible study app. Let's go to about really quick so you guys can see it. I don't know if it's going to show up on the screen or not. Let me see. No, it doesn't show up. It's not showing any. This is from Olive Tree Bible software. Some of you guys have heard me. This is a free app you can download. And the Josephus, the writings or the complete works of Flavius Josephus, or the writings of Flavius Josephus, that is a free download in the store. So if you guys want to pull this down and put it on your laptop, it's a free download. Okay, I'm on the Apple platform. Now, let me make sure I get you guys in the right area for those of you that want to read this. Wars of the Jews, book 3, chapter 7. Go. No, is that right? Let me go back. Hang on. You're taking the city Gadara. Yeah, same one. Okay, here we go. All right, y'all. Let's jump on it. No comments. Let's go. War 3.7.1. Okay, so this is book 3, chapter 7, part 1. So Vespasian is the Roman emperor at the time. He's a general before he became the emperor, and he's one of the Roman military commanders in charge of the entire siege of the Judean province, which is what the Romans called it at that time because they brought it under their wing. And if you want to know how that happened, read the books of the Maccabees, okay, in the Apocrypha. The books of the Maccabees tell you exactly how Rome ended up in the land of Judah. Okay, it's interesting reading. Okay. Books of the Maccabees and the Apocrypha. Here we go. So Vespasian marched to the city Gadara and took it upon the first onset, because he found it destitute of any considerable number of men grown up and fit for war. He came then into it and slew all the youth, the Romans having no mercy on any age whatsoever, and this was done out of the hatred they bore the nation, and because of the iniquity they had been guilty of in the affairs of Cestius. Y'all got to read the whole story to get the backdrop. He also set fire, not only to the city itself, but to all the villas and small cities that were round about it. Some of them were quite destitute of inhabitants, and out of some of them he carried the inhabitants as slaves into captivity. All right. All of this was prophesied in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy, by the way. This is the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy under a microscope right here. So they were already being carried away as slaves during the war. Let's keep going. Part 2, section 2. As to Josephus, His retiring into that city, which he chose as the most fit for his security, put it into great fear. So Josephus was on the run. They were looking for him because he was actually a skilled general, and they were looking for him. He was on the run. So he's trying to find a place to hide. For the people of Tiberias did not imagine that he would have run away unless he had entirely despaired of the success of the war. And indeed, as to that point, they were not mistaken about his opinion, for he saw whither the affairs of the Jews would end at last, and was sensible that they had but one way of escaping, and that was by repentance. However, although he expected that the Romans would forgive him, yet did he choose to die many times over rather than to betray his country and to dishonor that supreme command of the army which had been entrusted with him, or to live happily under those against whom he was sent to fight. We know how that ended up, but anyway. He determined, therefore, to give an exact account of affairs to the principal men at Jerusalem by a letter, that he might not be too much aggrandizing the power of the enemy, make them too timorous, nor by relating that their power beneath the truth might encourage them to stand out when they were perhaps disposed to repentance. He also sent them word that if they thought of coming to terms, they must suddenly write him an answer, or if they resolve upon war, they must send him an army sufficient to fight the Romans. Accordingly, he wrote these things and sent messengers immediately to carry his letter to Jerusalem. Part 3, or Section 3. Now Vespasian was very desirous of demolishing Jotapota, for he had, and I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but there it is. He was very desirous of demolishing Jotapota, for he had gotten intelligence that the greatest part of the enemy had retired there, and that it was, on other accounts, a place of great security to them. Accordingly, he sent both footmen and horsemen to level the road, which was mountainous and rocky, not without difficulty to be traveled over by footmen, but absolutely impracticable for horsemen. Now, these workmen accomplished, and y'all can look at a what do you call it, a relief map of modern day Israel, if you will, around that area and see how hilly it was. So it wasn't always easy to get into some of these places with horses. Okay, and I'm not, because I don't want to belabor this. I would normally pull up a map of where ancient Jotapata was, and should I do that for y'all? Nah, you know what? Maybe I'll come back later and do it at the end. But my understanding of it from what I read is the city itself was kind of like on a precipice, and it was hard to get to. So it was a very well defended city. Now let me keep going. Now 142. Now these workmen accomplished what they were about in 4 days' time, and opened a broad way for the army. On the 5th day, which was the 21st of the month Artemisius, or GR, whatever month that is, Josephus prevented him, and came from Tiberias, and went into Jotapata, and raised the drooping spirits of the Jews. And a certain deserter told the good news to Vespasian that Josephus had removed himself thither or there, which made him make haste to the city. Remember, they were looking for him, as supposing that with taking that, he should take all Judea, in case he could but withal get Josephus under his power. So he figured if he got Josephus, Josephus was, a well-spoken man. He was one that people loved, they followed. He could probably, if I capture Josephus, we can end this war. He'll talk to everybody else and get them to put down their arms, and this will be the end of it. Okay. 144. So he took this news to be of the vastest advantage to him, and believed it to be brought about by the providence of God, that he, who appeared to be the most prudent man of all their enemies, had, of his own accord, shut himself up in a place of sure custody. Accordingly, he sent Placidus with 1,000 horsemen, and Eubytius, a decurion, or a centurion is one who commands 100 men. A decurion will be one who commands like a 10-man squad. And Eubytius, Ebutius, a decurion, a person that was of eminency both in counsel and in action, to encompass or surround the city, that Josephus might not escape away privately. Part 4. Vespasian also, the very next day, took his whole army and followed them, and by marching till late in the evening, arrived then at Jotapata. And bringing his army to the northern side of the city, he pitched his camp on a certain small hill, which was 7 furlongs from the city, and still greatly endeavored to be well seen by the enemy, to put them into a consternation, which was indeed so terrible to the Jews immediately, that no one of them durst or dared go out beyond the wall. Yet, let me look that up on the screen for you guys, because that is some of these words in here are like ancient. Let me look it up. Consternation. Nope, that's not what I want there. Hang on. Okay, consternation is a noun which means feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically at something unexpected. Okay, so I'm gonna read that again. And still greatly endeavored to be well seen by the enemy, to put them into a consternation. So they wanted to make sure that they saw these forces coming, so that they would get discouraged and dismayed, which was indeed so terrible to the Jews immediately that not one of them dared go out beyond the wall. Yet did the Romans put off the attack at that time, because they had marched all day, although they placed a double row of battalions round the city, with a third row beyond them round the whole, which consisted of cavalry, in order to stop up every way for an exit, which thing, making the Jews despair of escaping, excited them to act more boldly, for nothing makes men fight so desperately in war as necessity. Okay, section 5. Now, when an assault was made the next day by the Romans, the Jews at first stayed out of the walls and opposed them, and met them, as having formed themselves a camp before the city walls. So they went outside like, what's up? What's good? But when Vespasian had set against them the archers and slingers, the whole multitude that could throw to a great distance, he permitted them to go to work, while he himself, with footmen, got upon an acclivity, whence the city might be easily taken. Acclivity, I think that's some type of high something. Acclivity. Acclivity is an upward slope. Okay, so he got up on an upward slope. Okay. Where are we? Whence the city might easily be taken. Josephus was then in fear for the city, and leaped out, and all the Jewish multitude with him. These fell together upon the Romans in great numbers, and drove them away from the wall, and performed a great many glorious and bold actions. Yet did they suffer as much as they made the enemy suffer. So it was like a wash. For as despair of deliverance encouraged the Jews, so did a sense of shame equally encourage the Romans. These last had skill as well as strength. The other had only courage, which armed them and made them fight furiously. So the Romans were skilled warriors. These brothers from Judah, they were just strong and brave, and they fought furiously with that. And when the fight had lasted all day, it was put to an end by the coming on of night. They had wounded a great many of the Romans, and killed of them 13 men. Of the Jews' side, 17 were slain, and 600 wounded. Sounds like they were out there throwing fists. If that's all they got killed, sounds like they were fist fighting. But anyway, on the next day, the Jews made another attack upon the Romans, and went out of the walls, and fought a much more desperate battle with them than before. For they were now become more courageous than formerly, and that on account of the unexpected good opposition they had made the day before, as they found the Romans also to fight more desperately. For a sense of shame inflamed into a passion, as esteeming their failure of a sudden victory to be kind of a defeat. So the Romans were so proud of how good they were in battle, that they were like frustrated because they couldn't get these guys out of there who weren't a standing army. 157. Thus did the Romans try to make an impression upon the Jews till the 5th day continually, while the people of Jotapota made sallies out, and fought at the walls most desperately. Nor were the Jews affrighted of the strength of the enemy, nor were the Romans discouraged at the difficulties they met in taking the city. So this thing was like almost like a stalemate. And by the way, where you see sally, that means a group of them just ran outside of the walls and ran at the enemy. That's what a sally is. Okay. Section 7. Now, Jotapata is almost all of it built upon a precipice, having on all the other sides of it every way valleys, immensely deep and steep, insomuch that those who would look down would have their sight fail them before it reaches the bottom. Wow, that's some high ground. That's why he went there. He's like, look, this is probably the biggest stronghold I can get into. That's going to be difficult for them to come in at me here at. Continue on. It is only to be come at on the north side, where the utmost part of the city is built on the mountain, as it ends obliquely at a plain. This mountain Josephus had encompassed with a wall when he fortified the city, that its top might not be capable of being seized upon by the enemies. The city is covered all around with other mountains and can no way be seen till a man comes just upon it. And this was the strong situation of Jotapota. So this was a stronghold. Section 8. Vespasian, therefore, in order to try how he might overcome the natural strength of the place, as well as the bold defense of the Jews, made a resolution to prosecute the siege with vigor. To that end, he called the commanders that were under him to a council of war, and consulted with them which way the assault might be managed to the best advantage. And when the resolution was there taken to raise a bank against that part of the wall which was practicable, he sent his whole army abroad to get the materials together. So these Roman soldiers, y'all have to understand, they were soldiers and engineers. They were soldiers and engineers. And that's why a lot of the modern day armies have these corps of engineers, like the army. The army got a corps of engineers. This is all based in what the ancient Romans used to do in combat. They would bring their engineers in there to help them manage a battle better. Now, when you read this part right here, that sounds a lot like the siege of Masada, where they had a similar situation, and the Romans moved so much earth that they could build a ramp to get up there and get at the enemy. But I'll keep going here. So let's see. So when they had cut down all the trees on the mountains that adjoined to the city, and had gotten together a vast heap of stones, besides the wood they had cut down, some of them brought hurdles, in order to avoid the effects of the darts that were shot from above them. These hurdles they spread over their banks, under cover whereof they formed their bank, and so were little or nothing hurt by the darts that were thrown upon them from the wall, while others pulled the neighboring hillocks to pieces and perpetually brought earth to them, so that while they were busy three sorts of ways, nobody was idle. However, the Jews cast great stones from the walls upon the hurdles which protected the men, with all sorts of darts also. So a dart was like a heavy weight, almost like a spear with like this heavy weight on it, so that it would carry, and when it hit whatever hit, it drove in deeper than like a normal javelin, which is just a regular spear. Okay. And the noise of what could not reach them was yet so terrible that it was some impediment to the workmen. Okay. So let me keep going here. There was a point I wanted to make looking at this. So nobody was idle, hillocks to pieces. So you're reading here. I want y'all to understand something, because I hear a lot of brothers talking about the land, and people who want to claim that the modern day land of Israel is not the land that the biblical patriarchs lived in, and that is someplace other than where it is, or where it's known to be today. And their reason for that is saying, well, look how barren it looks. You can read right here, and in a lot of these historical accounts, that there were trees there. It probably looked a lot like places that we have in America. But when you cut these trees down and you burn everything like the Romans did when they attacked it, and the Most High doesn't allow the rain to fall, it turns into desert. You already have no vegetation, and then with no rain falling, when he turns the faucet off and there's no rain falling on it, it's going to look like it does today. Okay, let me keep going. I wanted to throw that out there because a lot of people are like, man, that place ain't where our ancestors are from, man. That place is too brown and barren. Who wants to, like, why are people fighting over that land? It ain't nothing there. There was something there. Okay, that's why the Romans were there. They were coming there to get food. Let me keep going. Okay, section 9. Vespasian then set the engines for throwing stones and darts round about that city. The number of the engines was in all 160. Now, siege engines, y'all ever seen these movies where they got these giant things that look like scaffolds, and they have the catapults on them to hurl these giant stones to bust through walls? That's what these siege engines are. When they're not catapults, sometimes they're just giant scaffolds that you can roll right up to the tall walls of a city. The guys go up the ladders, and then they go over the scaffold and into the city walls. So those are siege engines. Either they're hurling things, or they're giant ladders / scaffolds that soldiers go up on to climb over walls without having to climb a wall. Okay, so that I wanted y'all to know what that siege engine thing, what it was, what it looked like. Okay, now let me read that again. Vespasian then set the engines for throwing stones and darts round about that city. The number of the engines was in all 160, and bade them fall to work and dislodge those that were upon the wall. At the same time, such engines as were intended for that purpose threw at once lances upon them with great noise, and the stones of the weight of a talent is 75 pounds, were thrown by the engines that were prepared for that purpose, together with fire, and a vast multitude of arrows, which made the wall so dangerous that the Jews dared not only not to come upon it, but dared not come to those parts within the walls which were reached by the engines. For the multitude of the Arabian archers, as well also as all those that threw darts and slung stones, fell to work at the same time with the engines. Yet did not the others lie still when they could not throw at the Romans from a higher place. For they made sallies out of the city like private robbers by parties, and pulled away the hurdles that covered the workmen, and killed them when they were thus naked. And when those workmen gave way, these cast away the earth that composed the bank, and burnt the wooden parts of it together with the hurdles. So as soon as the Romans built these ramps to get up to the city walls, they drove them away with their combat, and then they tore everything down that the Romans were trying to build to get to them. So they were fighting, y'all. Till at length, 170, till at length Vespasian perceived that the intervals there were between the works were that the intervals there were between the works were of disadvantage to him. For those spaces of ground afforded the Jews a place for assaulting the Romans. So he united the hurdles, and at the same time joined one part of the army to the other, which prevented the private excursions of the Jews. So you're seeing these tactics now. He's like, okay, I got to reposition because these guys, they're giving us a major toothache here, a problem. Let me stop what we're doing here and reposition so we can deal with them in concentration. Forced concentration. Here we go. Section 10. And when the bank was now raised and brought nearer than ever to the battlements that belonged to the walls, Josephus thought it would be entirely wrong in him if he could not make any contrivances in opposition to theirs, and that might be for the city's preservation. So he got together his workmen and ordered them to build the wall higher. And when they said that this was impossible to be done while so many darts were thrown at them, he invented this sort of cover for them. He bade them fix piles and expand before them raw hides of oxen newly killed, that these hides, by yielding and hollowing themselves when the stones were thrown at them, might receive them, for that the other darts would slide off them, and the fire that was thrown would be quenched by the moisture that was in them. And these he set before the workmen. So he created a shield of fresh, raw cowhide or cattle hide. So as you can see there, when the Romans would attack, their military prowess was so much that they would chase you behind the walls of your city, and they would go and take all your food. They take all your cattle. Here, they took the cattle that was outside the city walls, grazing, and killed them, and then used the skins to defend these workers so that they can get their embattlements in place to take that city. He's like, look, if we don't get these siege engines and these embattlements in place, we can't do what we need to do. So let's defend them. Let's put up some protection there. All right. Interesting. Very interesting battle. Very interesting siege. Okay. 174. And under them, these workmen went on with their works in safety and raised the wall higher, and that both by day and by night, till it was 20 cubits high. That's pretty high, y'all. A cubit is roughly, I think, roughly 18 inches or so. It's like the length of the average man's elbow to his wrist is a cubit. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. So I see that was 174. Okay, right here. He also built a good number of towers upon the wall and fitted it to strong battlements. This greatly discouraged the Romans, who, in their own opinions, were already gotten within the walls, while they were now at once astonished at Josephus's contrivance and at the fortitude of the citizens that were in the city. Excuse me, y'all. Section 11. And now Vespasian was plainly irritated at the great subtlety of their stratagem and at the boldness of the citizens of Jotapota. For taking heart again upon the building of this wall, they made fresh sallies upon the Romans, and had every day conflicts with them by parties, together with all such contrivances as robbers make use of, and with the plundering of all that came to hand, as also with the setting fire to all the other works. So they would go hit the Romans and set their stuff on fire. And this till Vespasian made his army leave off fighting them and resolved to lie around the city and to starve them into a surrender. So at this point, he's like, man, ain't no use in us fighting them, but they can't come out and get us if we ain't in position to fight them. So we'll surround the city and starve them out. So what the Romans used to do strategically, y'all, is they would place themselves between the wall, a walled city. They would place themselves between the walls of a walled city and the food that was out in the field. And they're like, okay, you want to eat, you got to come through us. That's how they would defeat a lot of their enemies. Okay. 179, as supposing that either they would be forced to petition him for mercy by want of provisions, or if they should have the courage to hold out till the last, they should perish by famine. And he concluded he should conquer them the more easily in fighting if he gave them an interval and then fell upon them when they were weakened by famine. But still he gave orders that they should guard against their coming out of the city. So he wanted to make sure they didn't come out. We ain't gonna go in there. We ain't gonna go at them, but let's make sure they don't come out. Section 12. Now the besieged had plenty of corn within the city, and indeed of all other necessities, but they wanted water because there was no fountain in the city, the people being there usually satisfied with rainwater. Yet it is a rare thing in that country to have rain in summer. And at this season, during the siege, they were in great distress for some contrivance to satisfy their thirst. And they were very sad at this time, particularly, as if they were already in want of water entirely. For Josephus, seeing that the city abounded with other necessaries, and that the men were of good courage, and being desirous to protect the siege, the Romans longer than let me go back. And being desirous to protect the siege to the Romans longer than they expected, ordered their drink to be given them by measure. So he started rationing it. But this scanty distribution of water by measure was deemed by them as a thing more hard upon them than the want of water. And their not being able to drink as much as they would made them more desirous of drinking than they otherwise had been. So it must have been summertime. You're hot out there, y'all. Nay, they were so much disheartened hereby as if they were come to the last degree of thirst. Nor were the Romans unacquainted with the state they were in. For when they stood over against them beyond the wall, they could see them running together and taking their water by measure, which made them throw their javelins there, the place being within their reach, and kill a great many of them. Wow. Section 13. Hereupon, Vespasian hoped that their receptacles of water would in no long time be emptied, and that they would be forced to deliver up the city to him. But Josephus, being minded to break such his hope, gave command that they should wet a great many of their clothes and hang them out about the battlements till the entire walls was of a sudden all wet, till the entire walls was all of a sudden wet with the running down of the water. At this sight, the Romans were discouraged and under consternation. Now they were stressed out when they saw them able to throw away in sport so much water, when they supposed them not to have enough to drink themselves. So now he's using some mental, he's doing mind games, y'all. This was a little bit of mental warfare there, okay? This made the Roman general despair of taking the city by their want of necessaries, and to betake himself again to arms, and to try to force them to surrender. So Josephus won the mental battle, okay? Which was what the Jews greatly desired. For as they despaired of either themselves or their city being able to escape, they preferred death in battle before won by hunger and thirst. So they're like, look, let's just get it over with. Section 14. However, Josephus contrived another stratagem, besides the foregoing, to get plenty of what they wanted. There was a certain rough and uneven place that could hardly be ascended, and on that account was not guarded by the soldiers. So Josephus sent out certain persons along the western parts of the valley, and by them sent letters to whom he pleased of the Jews that were out of the city, and procured from them what necessary soever they wanted in the city in abundance. He enjoined them also to creep generally along by the watch as they came into the city, and to cover their backs with such sheepskins as had their wool upon them, that if anyone should spy them in the nighttime, they might be believed to be dogs. This was done till the watch perceived their contrivance and encompassed the rough places about themselves. So they got away with it for a while. Section 15. And now it was that Josephus perceived that the city could not hold out long, and that his own life would be in doubt if he continued in it. So he consulted how he and the most potent of the men of the city might fly out of it or flee. When the multitude understood this, they came all round about him and begged of him not to overlook them, while they entirely depended on him and him alone. For that there was still hope of the city's deliverance if he would stay with them, because everybody would undertake any pains with great cheerfulness on his account, and in that case there would be some comfort for them also, though they should be taken, that it became him neither to flee from his enemies, nor to desert his friends, nor to leap out of that city as out of a ship that was sinking in a storm, into which he came when it was quiet and in a calm. For that by going away, he would be the cause of the drowning of the city, because nobody would then venture to oppose the enemy once he was gone, upon whom they wholly confided. So he's like, if I leave, they ain't gonna even fight. Hereupon, Josephus avoided letting them know that he was to go away to provide for his own safety, but told them that he would go out of the city for their sakes, for that if he would have stayed with them, he should be able to do them little good while they were in a safe condition, and that if they were once taken, he should only perish with them to no purpose, but that if he were once gotten free from this siege, he should be able to bring them very great relief, for that he would then immediately get the Galileans together out of the country in great multitudes and draw the Romans off their city by another war or battle. That he did not see what advantage he could bring to them now by staying among them, but only provoked the Romans to besiege them more closely, as esteeming it a most valuable thing to take him. But that if they were once informed that he was fled out of the city, they would greatly remit of their eagerness against it. So he was trying to convince them that he's who the Romans were after. He's like, look, they're after me, y'all. If I leave, they'll leave y'all alone. Okay, 201. Yet did not this plea move the people? They're like, man, we ain't trying to hear that. But inflamed them the more to hang about him. Accordingly, both the children and the old men and the women with their infants came mourning to him and fell down before him. And all of them caught hold of his feet and held him fast and besought him with great lamentations that he would take his share with them in their fortune. And I think they did this, not that they envied his deliverance, but that they hoped for their own. For they could not think they should suffer any great misfortune, provided Josephus would but stay with them. So they were like, man, this dude is a good battlefield leader. We can't have him leave the city right now. Who's going to lead it if he does? Section 17 is getting good, y'all. Now, Josephus thought that if he resolved to stay, it would be ascribed to their entreaties, and if he resolved to go away by force, he should be put into custody. His commiseration also of the people under their lamentations had much broken that of his eagerness to leave. So he resolved to stay. And arming himself with the common despair of the citizens, he said to them, now it is time to begin to fight in earnest, when there is no hope of deliverance left. It is a brave thing to prefer glory before life, and to set about some such noble undertaking as may be remembered by late posterity. Having said this, he fell to work immediately and made a sally and dispersed the enemy's outguards and ran as far as the Roman camp itself and pulled the coverings of their tents to pieces that were upon their banks and set fire to their works. Identity and prophecy, y'all. Identity. Who that sound like, y'all? Let's keep going. And this was the manner in which he never left off fighting, neither the next day nor the day after it, but went on with it for a considerable number of both days and nights. Section 18. Upon this, Vespasian, when he saw the Romans distressed by these sallies, these some battle-hardened soldiers, y'all, and he got them stressed out. Although they were ashamed to be made to run away by the Jews, and when at any time they made the Jews run away, their heavy armor would not let them pursue them far, while the Jews, when they had performed any action, and before they could be hurt themselves, still retired into the city. So they could move faster. The men of Judah, the men of Jotapota could move faster because they didn't have all that heavyweight armor on it. The Roman soldiers had this heavyweight armor to protect them from the darts and the arrows and the stones, but it was so heavy that they could only run so far before they got worn out. Number 208. Ordered, let me go back. When they had performed any action and before they could be hurt themselves, still retired into the city, ordered his armed men to avoid their onset and not to fight it out with men under desperation, while nothing is more courageous than despair, but that their violence would be quenched when they saw they failed of their purposes, as fire is quenched when it wants fuel. Smart. And that it was most proper for the Romans to gain their victories as cheap as they could, since they are not forced to fight, but only to enlarge their own dominions. So he repelled the Jews in great measure by the Arabian archers and the Syrian slingers. You see what the Romans did? When they conquered, they would take the men of that area and make them conscripts into their military. So he had Arabian archers and Syrian slingers, and by those that threw stones at them. Now, don't think Arabian and Syrian in a modern sense, y'all. Don't think Arabian and Syrian in a modern sense. Understand, understand, overstand who lived in that region back then. Okay? All right? Let's keep it moving. Arabian archers and Assyrian slingers, and by those that threw stones at them, nor was there any intermission of the great number of their offensive engines. Now, the Jews suffered greatly by these engines, without being able to escape from them. And when these engines threw their stones or javelins at a great way, and the Jews within their reach, they pressed hard upon the Romans and fought desperately, without sparing either soul or body, one part succoring another by turns when it was tired down. Okay? Succor, let's look that up. It is a noun meaning assistance and support in times of hardship and distress. Okay? So one part assisting another by turns when it was tired down. So basically what that means is these groups, one of them would fight till they were too tired, then the next one would jump in, almost like a tag team wrestling match. All right? Verse section 19. When therefore Vespasian looked upon himself as in a manner besieged by these sallies of the Jews, and when his banks were now not far from the walls, he determined to make use of his battering ram. This battering ram is a vast beam of wood like the mast of a ship. Its forepart is armed with a thick piece of iron at the head of it, which is so carved as to be like the head of a ram, from whence its name is taken. This ram is slung in the air by ropes passing over its middle, and is hung like the balance in a pair of scales from another beam, and braced by strong beams that pass on both sides of it in the nature of a cross. When this ram is pulled backward by a great number of men with united force, and then thrust forward by the same men with a mighty noise, it batters the walls with that part of iron which is prominent. Nor is there any tower so strong or wall so broad that can resist any more than its first batteries, but all are forced to yield to it at last. This was the experiment which the Roman general betook himself to when he was eagerly bent upon taking the city, and found lying in the fields so long to be to his disadvantage, because the Jews would never let him be quiet. So he knew as long as he was there not fighting, they were just going to come keep, sticking and moving like Ray Leonard. Anyway, so these Romans brought the several engines for galling an enemy nearer to the walls, that they might reach such as were upon the wall, and endeavor to frustrate their attempts. These threw stones and javelins at them. In the like manner did the archers and slingers come both together closer to the wall. This brought matters to such a pass that none of the Jews dared mount the walls. And when it was that the other Romans brought the battering ram that was cased with hurdles all over, and in the upper part was secured with skins that covered it, and this both for security of themselves and for the engine. Now, at the very first stroke of this engine, the wall was shaken, and a terrible clamor was raised by the people within the city, as if they were already taken. Part 20. And now, when Josephus saw this ram still battering the same place, and that the wall would quickly be thrown down by it, he resolved to elude for a while the force of the engine. With this design, he gave orders to fill sacks with chaff, and to hang them down before that place where they saw the ram always battering, that the stroke might be turned aside, or that the place might feel less of the strokes by the yielding nature of the chaff. Smart. This contrivance very much delayed the attempts of the Romans, so he put a device there to deflect the full force of the battering ram. You guys are fighting, y'all. 224. This contrivance very much delayed the attempts of the Romans, because it let them remove their engine to what part they pleased. Those that were above it removed their sacks and placed them over against the strokes it made, insomuch that the wall was no way hurt, and this by diversion of the strokes, till the Romans made an opposite contrivance of long poles, and by tying hooks at their ends, cut off the sacks. Golly, y'all. They going back and forth playing chess. 226. Now, when the battering ram thus recovered its force, and the wall, having been but newly built, was giving way, Josephus and those about him had afterward immediate recourse to fire, to defend themselves withal. Whereupon they took what materials soever they had that were but dry, and made a sally 3 ways, and set fire to the machines, and the hurdles, and the banks of the Romans themselves. Nor did the Romans well know how to come to their assistance, being at once under a consternation at the Jews' boldness. So again, they stressed the Romans out, and being prevented by the flames from coming to their assistance. For the materials being dry, with the bitumen and pitch that were among them, also was brimstone, also as was brimstone also. The fire caught hold of everything immediately, and what cost the Romans a great deal of pains was in 1 hour consumed. So in 1 hour, they burned up everything the Romans were using to get in the walls. Now, keep in mind, y'all, this was a tremendous battle because you had people there that were not soldiers holding off battle-hardened soldiers. What a fight. What a fight. Section 21. And here a certain Jew appeared worthy of our relation and commendation. He was the son of Samius, and was called Eleazar, and was born at Saab in Galilee. This man took up a stone of vast bigness, and threw it down from the wall upon the ram, and this with so great a force that it broke off the head of the engine. That must have been a big mofo, y'all. I ain't talking about the stone either. I'm talking about who threw it. He also leaped down and took up the head of the ram from the midst of them, and without any concern carried it to the top of the wall. And this, while he stood as a fit mark to be pelted by all his enemies. He didn't even care. He like, here I am. Come get it. Accordingly, he received the strokes upon his naked body, and was wounded with 5 darts. Okay, those darts were big, by the way, y'all. Nor did he mind any of them while he went up to the top of the wall. That must have been a C.T. Fletcher type of dude. Shout out to C.T. Fletcher if he watching this video, okay? Where he stood in sight of them all, as an instance of the greatest boldness. After which he threw himself on a heap with his wounds upon him, and fell down together with the head of the ram. Next to him, 2 brothers showed their courage. Their names were Natir and Philip, both of them of the village Ruma, and both of them Galileans also. These men leaped upon the soldiers of the 10th Legion, and fell upon the Romans with such a noise and force as to disorder their ranks, and to put to flight all upon whomsoever they made their assaults. 1 could chase 1,000, and 2 could put 10,000 to a flight. All right, let me keep going. Section 22. After these men's performances, Josephus and the rest of the multitude with him took a great deal of fire, and burnt both the machines and their coverings with the works belonging to the 5th and to the 10th Legion, which he then put to flight, when others followed them immediately, and buried those instruments and all their materials underground. However, about the evening, the Romans erected the battering ram again. Them jokers were relentless against that part of the wall which had suffered before. So he's like, nah, we ain't done. Where a certain Jew that defended the city from the Romans hit Vespasian with a dart in his foot. Oh, he hit the general, y'all, and wounded him a little, the distance being so great that no mighty impression could be made by the dart thrown so far off. Okay, so he was so far away that it didn't do the damage it would have if he were close. However, this caused the greatest disorder among the Romans, for when those who stood near him saw his blood, they were disturbed at it, and a report went abroad through the whole army that the general was wounded, while the greatest part left the siege and came running together with surprise and fear to the general. And before them all came Titus, out of the concern he had for his father, insomuch that the multitude were in great confusion, and this out of the regard they had for their general, and by reason of the agony that the son was in. So he cried, Daddy. Yet did the father soon put an end to the son's fear, that daddy was a hard old dude, and to the disorder the army was under, for being superior to his pains, and endeavoring soon to be seen by all that had been in a fright about him, he excited them to fight the Jews more briskly. For now everybody was willing to expose himself to danger immediately in order to avenge their general. And then they encouraged one another with loud voices, and ran hastily to the walls. So they rallied. Section 23. But still, Josephus and those with him although they fell down dead one upon another by the darts and stones which the engines threw upon them, yet did not they desert the wall, but fell upon those who managed the ram under the protection of the hurdles with fire and iron weapons and stones. And these could do little or nothing, but fell themselves perpetually, while they were seen by those whom they could not see. For the light of their own flame shone about them and made them a most visible mark to the enemy, as they were in the daytime, while the engines could not be seen at a great distance, and so what was thrown at them was hard to be avoided. For the force with which these engines threw stones and darts made them hurt several at a time, and the violent noise of the stones that were cast by the engines was so great that they carried away the pinnacles of the wall and broke off the corners of the towers. For no body of men could be so strong as not to be overthrown to the last rank by the largeness of the stones. And any one may learn the force of the engines by what happened this very night. For as one of those that stood round about Josephus was near the wall, his head was carried away by such a stone, and his skull was flung as far as 3 furlongs. In the daytime also, a woman with child had her belly so violently struck, as she was just come out of her house, that the infant was carried to the distance of 1/2 furlong. Wow. Mm. So great was the force of that engine that the noise of the instruments themselves was very terrible. The sound of the darts and stones that were thrown by them was so also. Y'all, a furlong is roughly 1/8 of a mile. Of that same sort was the noise that the dead bodies made when they were dashed against the wall, and indeed dreadful was the clamor which these things raised in the women within the city, which was echoed back at the same time by the cries of such as were slain, while the whole space of the ground whereon they fought ran with blood, and the wall might have been ascended over by the bodies of the dead carcasses. Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26, right there. The mountains also contributed to increase the noise by their echoes, nor was there on that night anything of terror wanting. So there was no lack of terror that could either affect the hearing or the sight. Yet did a great part of those that fought so hard for Jotapota fall manfully, as were a great part of them wounded. However, the morning's watch was come ere the wall yielded. However, the morning watch was come ere the wall yielded to machines employed against it. This is kind of poorly written, but I'm fighting through it. Though it had been battered without intermission. However, those within covered their bodies with their armor and raised works over against that part which was thrown down before those machines were laid by which the Romans were to ascend into the city. So now they get into where they can climb over the walls. Section 24. In the morning, Vespasian got his army together in order to take the city by storm, after a little recreation upon the hard pains they had been at the night before. So he gave him a little break, and then morning came, he's like, we're going to take it, we're going to storm the city now. And as he was desirous to draw off those that opposed him from the places where the wall had been thrown down, he made the most courageous of the horsemen get off their horses and placed them in 3 ranks over against the ruins of the walls, but covered with their armor on every side, and with poles in their hands, that so these might begin their ascent as soon as the instruments for such ascent were laid. Behind them he placed the flower of the footmen, but for the rest of the horse he ordered them to extend themselves over against the wall upon the whole hilly country, in order to prevent anyone from escaping out of the city when it should be taken. And behind these he placed the archers round about, and commanded them to have all their darts ready to shoot. The same command he gave to the slingers and to those that managed the engines, and bade them to take up the other ladders and have them ready to lay upon those parts of the wall which were yet untouched, that the besieged might be engaged in trying to hinder their ascent by them, and leave the guard of the parts that were thrown down, while the rest of them should be overborne by the darts cast at them, and might afford his men an entrance into the city. Section 25. But Josephus, understanding the meaning of Vespasian's contrivance, set the old men together with those that were tired out at the sound parts of the wall, as expecting no harm from those quarters, but set the strongest of the men at the place where the wall was broken down, and before them all 6 men by themselves, among whom he took his share of the first and greatest danger. So he was like, bump it, let's go get this. Number 259, he also gave orders that when the legions made a shout, they should stop their ears, that they might not be affrighted at it, and that to avoid the multitude of the enemy's darts, they should bend down on their knees and cover themselves with their shields, and that they should retreat a little backward for a while, till the archers should have emptied their quivers, but that when the Romans should lay their instruments for ascending the walls, they should leap out on them all of a sudden, and with their own instruments should meet the enemy, and that everyone should strive to do his best in order not to defend, as if it were possible to be preserved, but in order to revenge it when it was already destroyed, and that they should be set and that they should set before their eyes how their old men were to be slain, and the children and their wives to be killed immediately by the enemy, and that they would beforehand spend all their fury on account of the calamities just coming upon them and pour it out on the actors. So he told them, he said, look, this is what's going to happen if we don't get these guys up out of here. Okay. Section 26, we get toward the end here. And thus did Josephus dispose of of both his bodies of men, but then for the useless part of the citizens, the women and children, when they saw their city encompassed by a threefold army, for none of the usual guards that had been fighting before were removed, when they also saw not only the walls thrown down, but their enemies with swords in their hands, as also the hilly country above them shining with their weapons, and the darts in the hands of the Arabian archers, they made a final and lamentable outcry of the destruction, as if the misery were not only threatened, but actually come upon them already. But Josephus ordered the women to be shut up in their houses, lest they should render the warlike actions of the men too effeminate, by making them commiserate their condition, and commanded them to hold their peace, and threatened them if they did not, while he came himself before the breach, where his allotment was. For all those who brought ladders to the other places, he took no notice of them, but earnestly waited for the shower of arrows that was coming. And now the trumpeters of the section 27. And now the trumpeters of the several Roman legions sounded together, and the army made a terrible shout, and the darts, as by order, flew so fast that they intercepted the light. However, Josephus's men remembered the charges he had given them. They stopped their ears at the sounds and covered their bodies against the darts. And as to the engines that were set ready to go to work, the Jews ran out upon them before those that should have used them were gotten upon them. Okay. And now, on the ascending of the soldiers, there was a great conflict, and many actions of the hands and of the soul were exhibited, while the Jews did earnestly endeavor in the extreme danger they were in, not to show less courage than those who, without being in danger, fought so stoutly against them, nor did they leave struggling with the Romans till they either fell down dead themselves or killed their antagonists. So they fought to the death. But the Jews grew weary with defending themselves continually, and had not enough to come in their places to succor them, or to basically give them tag them out, relieve them. While on the side of the Romans, fresh men still succeeded those that were tired, and still new men soon got upon the machines for ascent, in the room of those that were thrust down, those encouraging one another and joining side to side with their shields, which were a protection to them. They became a body of men not to be broken. As this band thrust away the Jews, as though they were themselves but one body, they began already to get upon the wall. Number 28, section 28. Then did Josephus take necessity for his counselor in the utmost distress, which necessity is very sagacious in invention when it is irritated by despair, and gave orders to pour scalding oil upon those whose shields protected them. Y'all remember? Y'all remember now? Remember the community post? Who's more likely to throw hot grease? It's right here. I'm going to read that again. Okay. Then did Josephus take necessity for his counselor in this utmost distress, and gave orders to pour scalding oil upon those whose shields protected them. Whereupon they soon got it ready, being many that brought it, and what they brought being a great quantity also, and poured it on all sides upon the Romans, and threw down upon them their vessels, as they were still hissing from the heat of the fire. This so burnt the Romans that it dispersed that united band, who now tumbled down from the wall with horrid pains, for the oil did easily run down the whole body from head to foot under their entire armor, and fed upon their flesh like flame itself, its fat and unctuous nature rendering it soon heated and slowly cooled. And as the men were cooped up in their headpieces and breastplates, they could no way get free from this burning oil. They could only leap and roll about in their pains as they fell down from the bridges they had laid. And as they were thus beaten back and retired to their own party, who still pressed them forward, they were easily wounded by those that were behind them. However, in this, that, and so now y'all know, they brought all the fish grease, all the chicken grease, all the French fry grease, whatever they was frying, they brought it and poured it on the Romans, okay? Section 29. However, in this ill success of the Romans, their courage did not fail them, nor did the Jews want prudence to oppose them. For the Romans, although they saw their own men thrown down and in a miserable condition, yet were they vehemently bent against those that poured the oil upon them, while everyone reproached the man before him as a coward and one that hindered him from exerting himself. And while the Jews made use of another stratagem to prevent their ascent, and poured boiling fenugreek upon the boards in order to make them slip and fall down, by which means neither could those that were coming up nor those that were going down stand on their feet, but some of them fell backwards upon the machines on which they ascended and were trodden upon. Many of them fell down on the bank they had raised, and when they were falling upon it, were slain by the Jews. For when the Romans could not keep their feet, the Jews, being freed from fighting hand to hand, had leisure to throw darts at them. So the general called off those soldiers in the evening that had suffered so sorely, of whom the numbers of the slain was not a few, while that of the wounded was still greater. But of the people of Jotapota, no more than 6 men were killed, although more than 300 were carried off wounded. This fight happened on the 20th day of the month Shivan, or Decius. I guess Decius is the Julian calendar, and Shivan is the Hebrew calendar. Section 30. Hereupon Vespasian comforted his army on occasion of what had happened, and as he found them angry indeed, but rather wanting somewhat to do than any farther exhortations, he gave orders to raise the banks still higher, and to erect 3 towers, each 50 feet high, that they should cover them with plates of iron on every side, that they might be both firm by their weight and not easily liable to be set on fire. These towers he set upon the banks and placed them upon such as could shoot darts and arrows, with the lighter engines for throwing stones and darts also. And beside these, he set upon them the stoutest men among the slingers, who, not being to be seen by reason of the height they stood upon, and the battlements that protected them, might throw their weapons at those that were upon the wall and were easily seen by them. Hereupon, the Jews, not being easily able to escape those darts that were thrown down upon their heads, nor to avenge themselves on those whom they could not see, and perceiving that the height of the towers was so great that a dart which they threw with their hand could hardly reach it, and that the iron plates about them made it very hard to come at them by fire, they ran away from the walls and fled hastily out of the city, and fell upon those that shot at them. And thus did the people of Jotapata resist the Romans, while a great number of them were every day killed, without their being able to retort the evil upon their enemies, nor could they keep them out of the city without danger to themselves. Now, this is where y'all gonna know who, identity-wise, who these people are. Watch how the Romans ended up winning the city. We're getting toward the end. About this time it was that Vespasian sent out Trajan against a city called Jaffa that lay near to Jotapata, and that desired innovations and was puffed up with the unexpected length of the opposition of Jotapata. This Trajan was the commander of the 10th legion, and to him Vespasian committed 1,000 horsemen and 2,000 footmen. When Trajan came to the city, he found it hard to be taken, for besides the natural strength of its situation, it was also secured by a double wall. But when he saw the people of this city coming out of it and ready to fight him, he joined battle with them, and after a short resistance which they made, he pursued after them. And as they fled to their first wall, the Romans followed them so closely that they fell in together with them. But when the Jews were endeavoring to get again within the second wall, their fellow citizens shut them out, as being afraid that the Romans would force themselves in with them. Wow. It was certainly God, therefore, who brought the Romans to punish the Galileans, and did then expose the people of the city, every one of them manifestly to be destroyed by their bloody enemies. For they fell upon the gates in great crowds, and earnestly calling to those that kept them, and that by their names also, yet had they had their throats cut in the midst of their supplications. For the enemy shut the gates of the first wall, and their own citizens shut the gates of the second. So they were trapped in between, so that they were enclosed between two walls, and were slain in great numbers together. Many of them were run through by swords of their own men, and many by their own swords, besides an immense number that were slain by the Romans. Nor had they any courage to revenge themselves, for they were added to the consternation. For there was added to the consternation they were in from the enemy, their being betrayed by their own friends, which quite broke their spirits. And at last they died, cursing not the Romans, but their own citizens, till they were all destroyed, being in number 12,000. So Trajan gathered that the city was empty of people that could fight, and although there should a few of them be therein, he supposed that they would be too timorous to venture upon any opposition. So he reserved the taking of the city to the general. Accordingly, he sent messengers to Vespasian and desired him to send his son Titus to finish the victory he had gained. Vespasian, hereupon, imagining there might be some pains still necessary, sent his son with an army of 500 horsemen and 1,000 footmen. So he came quickly to the city and put his army in order, and set Trajan over the left wing, while he had the right himself, and led them to the siege. And when the soldiers brought ladders to be laid against the wall on every side, the Galileans opposed them from above for a while, but soon afterward they left the walls. Then did Titus's men leap into the city, and seized upon it presently. But when those that were in it were gotten together, there was a fierce battle between them. For the men of power fell upon the Romans in the narrow streets, and the women threw whatsoever came next to hand at them, and sustained a fight with them for 6 hours' time. But when the fighting men were spent, the rest of the multitude had their throats cut, partly in the open air, partly in their own houses, both young and old together. That's Deuteronomy 28. So there were no males now remaining, besides infants, who, with the women, were carried as slaves into captivity. So that the number of the slain, both now in the city and at the former fight, was 15,000, and the captives were 2,130. This calamity befell the Galileans on the 25th day of the month Shivan. Nor did this, section 32, nor did the Samaritans escape their share of the misfortunes at this time, for they assembled themselves together upon the mountain called Gerizim, which is with them a holy mountain, and there they remained, with collections of theirs, as well as the courageous minds they showed, could not but threaten somewhat of war. Nor were they rendered wiser by the miseries that had come upon their neighboring cities. They also, notwithstanding the great success the Romans had, marched on in an unreasonable manner, depending on their own weakness, and were disposed for any tumult upon its first appearance. Vespasian, therefore, thought it best to prevent their motions and to cut off the foundation of their attempts. For although Samaria had ever garrisons settled among them, yet did the number of those that were come to Mount Gerizim and their conspiracy together give ground to fear what they would be at. He therefore sent thither Ceralius, the commander of the 5th Legion, with 600 horsemen and 3,000 footmen, who did not think it safe to go up to the mountain and give them battle, because many of the enemy were on the higher part of the ground. So he compassed all the lower part of the mountain with his army, and watched them all that day. Now it happened that the Samaritans, who were now destitute of water, were inflamed with a violent heat, for it was summertime, and the multitude had not provided themselves with necessaries, insomuch that some of them died that very day with heat, while others of them preferred slavery before such a death as that was, and fled to the Romans, by whom Ceralius understood that those who still stayed there were very much broken by their misfortunes. So he went up to the mountain, and having placed his forces round about the enemy, he, in the first place, exhorted them to take the security of his right hand and come to terms with him, and thereby save themselves, and assured them that if they would lay down their arms, he would secure them from any harm. But when he could not prevail with them, he fell upon them and slew them all, being in number 11,600. This was done on the 27th day of the month Shivan. And these were the calamities that befell the Samaritans at this time. But as the people of Jotapata still held out manfully and bore up under their miseries beyond all that could be hoped for, on the 47th day of the siege, the banks cast up by the Romans were becoming higher than the wall, on which day a certain deserter went to Vespasian and told him how few were left in the city and how weak they were, and that they had been so worn out with their perpetual watching and also perpetual fighting that they could not now oppose any force that came against them, and that they might be taken by stratagem if anyone would attack them. For that about the last watch of the night, when they thought they might have some rest from the hardships they were under, and when a morning sleep used to come upon them, as they were thoroughly weary, he said the watch used to fall asleep. Accordingly, his advice was that they should make the attack at that hour. His name was Sambo. Not really, but y'all know. This the part. Okay. But Vespasian had a suspicion about this deserter, as knowing how faithful the Jews were to one another, and how much they despised any punishments that could be inflicted upon them. This last because one of the people of Jotapata had undergone all sorts of torments, and though they made him pass through a fiery trial of his enemies in his examination, yet would he inform them nothing of the affairs within the city. And as he was crucified, he smiled at them. So that had happened before. He's like, nah, we don't trust you, man. We've seen this before. Number 322. However, the probability there was in the relation itself did partly confirm the truth of what the deserter told them. And they thought he might probably speak the truth. However, Vespasian thought they should be no great sufferers if the report was a sham. So he commanded them to keep the man in custody and prepare the army for taking the city. According to which resolution they marched without noise at the hour that had been told them to the wall. And it was Titus himself that first got upon it, with one of his tribunes, Domitius Sabinus, and had a few of the 15th legion along with him. So they cut the throats of the watch and entered the city very quietly. After these came Ceralius the tribune and Placidus, and led on those that were under them. Now, when the citadel was taken, and the enemy were in the very midst of the city, and when it was already day, yet was not the taking of the city known by those that held it. For a great many of them were fast asleep, and a great mist, which then by chance fell upon the city, hindered those that got up from distinctly seeing the case they were in, till the whole Roman army was gotten in, and they were raised up only to find the miseries they were under. And as they were slaying, they perceived the city was taken. And for the Romans, they so well remembered what they had suffered during the siege, that they spared none, nor pitied any, but drove the people down the precipice from the citadel, and slew them as they drove them down. At which time the difficulties of the place hindered those that were still able to fight from defending themselves. For as they were distressed in the narrow streets, and could not keep their feet sure along the precipice, they were overpowered with the crowd of those that came fighting them down from the citadel. This provoked a great many, even of the chosen men that were about Josephus, to kill themselves with their own hands. But when they saw that they could kill none of the Romans, they resolved to prevent being killed by the Romans, and got together in great numbers in the utmost parts of the city, and killed themselves. Two more sections, y'all. Number 35. However, such of the watch as at the first perceived they were taken, and ran away as fast as they could, went up into one of the towers on the north side of the city, and for a while defended themselves there. But as they were encompassed with a multitude of enemies, they tried to use their right hands when it was too late, and at length they cheerfully offered their necks to be cut off by those that stood over them. And the Romans might have boasted that the conclusion of that siege was without blood on their side, if there had not been a centurion, Antonius, who was slain at the taking of the city. His death was occasioned by the following treachery. For there was one of those that were fled into the caverns, which were a great number, who desired that Antonius would reach him his right hand for his security, and would assure him that he would preserve him, and give him his assistance in getting up out of the cavern. Accordingly, he incautiously reached him his right hand, And when the other man prevented him, and stabbed him under his loins with a spear, and killed him immediately. Section 36, and final one. And on this day the Romans slew all the multitude that appeared openly, but on the following days they searched the hiding places, and fell upon those that were underground, and in the caverns, and went thus through every age, excepting the infants and the women. And of these that were gathered together as captives, 1,200. And as for those that were slain at the taking of the city and in the former fights, they were numbered to be 40,000. So Vespasian gave order that the city should be entirely demolished, and all the fortifications burnt down. And thus was Jotapata taken in the 13th year of the reign of Nero, on the first day of the month Panemus or Tammuz. What a fight. What a fight, y'all. What a fight. What a fight. Okay, Shivan, which usually begins, Shaquilla Renee says Shivan, which usually begins during late May or early June. Okay, so that was yeah, summertime. Monkbo said my man CT, MF, and Fletcher. Yo, wow, we're some powerful people. Starvation, common theme. I will be out of the chat listening. I'm doing my hair. Gotcha. Hi, Torgo. Hi, lady. Okay. Hebrew. Okay. At the month of 29. Okay, Shaquilla, appreciate that. ER usually falls in April to May on the Gregorian calendar. So you know what's funny? Here's what's interesting. I feel like the Battle of Jotapata was a preview of the battle for Jerusalem, because the Battle of Jerusalem went kind of the same way, minus the sellout. So, I know the title says historian Flavius Josephus. Flavius Josephus was not a Greek convert. This ancient battle tactic proves it. Listen, you saw in the description there what his pre-Roman name was, and that was what was it? I just had it right here. Yosef ben Mattiyahu. Okay, Joseph ben Matthew. Okay, that was his name. Before now, you guys can read that. Or those of you that know the history, he ended up getting captured by the Romans and taken back to Rome, and they basically turned him and said, "Hey, listen, we'll let you live or whatever. We want you. You're. First of all, you're such a great general. We got you out of the game now, so we know we ain't got to fight against you. Number two, we feel like you can help us end this war because we really don't want to destroy any more of this country. Because back then, I'm here to tell you, it was probably a lot more beautiful than it is today. But they weren't trying to hear Josephus because they heard that he was a turncoat, and a lot of people look down on him because of the way he managed that. But y'all have to understand, man, we all come here to play different roles, okay? And so if he's not the person he is, then these accounts are never written. So he was given I feel like he was born to write the accounts of what was going to happen anyway, because what happened there had been prophesied centuries before. I mean, what, 1,000 or so years before that, through Moses. Let's bring that up for a second. Let's bring that up real quick. And we're going to get ready to wrap this up. Where is it? Let's go here, y'all. A lot of y'all know Deuteronomy 28 quite well. I'm just going to jump to like the middle part where they're talking about not having pity on young or old. Let's see. Where is it? Talking about the siege. Let me find. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see. Well, that's more Jerusalem. They're talking about eating the seed there, but I'm not gonna bring it up, y'all. Y'all read Deuteronomy 28. Y'all know it. Read Deuteronomy 28. Read Leviticus 26. It's gonna give you some of the same. I call those sister chapters. Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26 are pretty much almost identical, minus Deuteronomy 28 and 68. You don't see that particular thing written in Leviticus 26. But this was something I wanted to illustrate to you guys with regards to identity. This was, and it's funny, Josephus. let me bring it back home, y'all. Let me bring it back home because I'm getting tired. My eyes are getting red. Let me bring it back home. A lot of our people are out here teaching that Josephus ain't really something to read. He's not somebody to read. His accounts were blah, 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 blah. He was a Greek convert to Judaism. All of those are wrong. All of those are wrong. Read the history of his life. He was basically, again, he was somebody that was captured by the Romans. He lived out the rest of his life as a Roman. They set him up to be okay. Some could call him a sellout. Again, he came to, if he's not born and he's not there to see these things, he can't write these accounts. So take that as you will. I played the part in the beginning about the Renaissance and the, let's call it what it is, whitewashing of history. This is just another example. So for those of you that watch these different videos, those of you who know your biblical identity, you cannot separate this from that. Okay, this is something that we're in a season where things that were taken are now being restored, and that was the reason for me reading that passage of scripture from Jeremiah, the 16th chapter in the beginning. This is it, y'all. This is it. The end ain't coming. The end is here. But the end of one is the beginning of another. Okay. Tor Girl said, I like his writing. It was meant to be for history. That's exactly correct. That is exactly correct. I've learned so much about the New Testament writings by reading the antiquities of the Jews. It really expounded on a lot of stuff. It expounded on a lot of stuff. Monk Mo said, this is a great lesson. Our people, I pray our people see it non-biased. It is what it is. And for those of you who are of a certain so-called ethnicity or religious affiliation, look, I'm gonna take you back here again. It ain't your fault. I ain't mad. Look, I ain't mad at nobody. Y'all know how I move. I don't care. I'm just here. I'm here for the truth. I'm here for the truth. Okay. I don't care about none of that other stuff. I don't get caught up in no fields and all of this, that, and the third. Jeremiah 16 and 19. Oh Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge. In the day of, it should read their affliction, even though it wasn't written that way. It's affliction coming, y'all. It's coming. It's coming. It's already here. It's already here. In the day of their affliction, the Gentiles shall come into thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Okay? So when somebody lies, everybody who's touched by that lie gets hurt. That's how that works. That's how that works. So I ain't mad at nobody who calls themselves one thing or the other. I'm trying to keep this YouTube friendly because again, unlike a lot of people, I don't come for nobody because of what. Look, I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. I grew up around a multitude of different types of people. Okay, I went to school. I was one of the few chocolate covered kids that went to a school that was predominantly Jewish and Catholic. So I had friends dating back to my elementary school. You can't be mad at somebody for what they're taught when they're younger. So this ain't. I hope ain't nobody in their feelings about this, but the stuff is right here in your face. Okay, who's more likely to throw hot grease on somebody? All right, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And then when they ran out of hot grease, they boiled some fenugreek, something that was going to stick. So this is, history is full of lies. We talked about the Vladimir Putin revelation with the ancient icons back 1 or 2 lives ago. All of this is the energy of this 8-year in an Aries North node. Everything is being drug out into the light. Everything is. And if you think you just seeing it now, just 90 days into 2024, wait till after this eclipse. Wait till after this eclipse. There's a reason why the 3 eclipses from 2017 to 2023 and now 2024, there's a reason why those 3 eclipses form the first letter in the ancient Hebrew character set and the 22nd and final letter in the ancient Hebrew character set. The beginning and the end of the second captivity right here on this land. That's what that means. If you haven't heard it anywhere, then you heard it here first. The or if you into modern Hebrew, Aleph, if you into modern, okay, I'm going to call it the the ox head, the beginning, and the or tav if you into modern Hebrew, the ah and the tha, the beginning and the end, the first letter and the 22nd letter, right here in North America. This is the beginning of the second captivity. This is the end of the second captivity, right here. If nobody told you, you heard it. You heard it. There's a lot of stuff that's going to keep popping off this year, and it's coming rapid. What did the scripture say? The scripture said, hang on a second here. Let me get this off the screen. Excuse me. Excuse me, y'all. 24. Let's try that one. Y'all ain't even hit my mute button. I'm over here burping. I apologize, y'all. Y'all. It's on autopilot right now. Okay. No, that's not it. One of y'all put it in the comments. It's been a while since I read this one, but y'all know how it talks about the end being like a woman in travail, where it or a woman in labor, where the contractions are further out, and then they get closer and closer and closer and closer, and then boom, the birth. That's where we at right now. That's where we at. I was looking for that passage of scripture. I don't remember it right offhand. If somebody wants to put it in the comments, if you remember right offhand, I will gladly pull it up on the screen. Y'all appreciate that, Monk Mo. Yeah, y'all do me a favor. Hit that like button, please do. Tor Girl says, I say it's prophecy. It has to happen. And the Most High will do vengeance. It's not for me to do anything because vengeance is right. Anya say facts over feelings all day long, all day. Monk Mo, we understand your language choice for YouTube guidelines. That's right. That's right. And again, I ain't trying to comfort nobody. So listen, I'm going to say this, y'all, and then I'm going to get ready to wrap this video up. As an author of both fiction and nonfiction, okay, I understand something inherently, and it is a universal truth. What is written and sealed is going to happen. What do you mean, Matthew? When I'm writing a story, when I'm writing a narrative, by the time I write that last sentence and put that last period on that last sentence, and that book is edited and published, that book is considered sealed. So when you open the pages of that book and you begin to read and you begin to connect with these different characters, okay, one of the things that you find is that you might have an affinity for one character or another, and you might want the story to go a certain way. I want this thing to happen for this character right here. I like this character. I hope this happens. I hope this happens. And you continue reading. What you hope happens does not matter. The author already knows how the story ends. And the ending is established before you begin to read that book. So everything that is written is going to happen. Okay? And I'm not even getting in the biblical sense of it. I'm going one further. I'm talking about what is written in the heavenly realms, what is written and published in the ethereal books, the books that we can't open up and read. What is written is going to happen. I don't care how I listen. My book's stuck in an elevator. Y'all do not know how many conversations I have with readers that hit me up, either email, DM, or phone calling if they know me personally, and say, "Yo, man, why didn't Nigel do this, man? Or why did Tammy do this, man? I was hoping that Tammy would do." Tammy did what she did. Nigel did what he did. The story's written. I got a part 2 coming out. Let's see what happens in part 2. I already know what's going to happen in part 2, but they don't. What is written is going to happen. The story's already sealed. Shakila said Isaiah 13:8. Let me read that. Thank you, Shakila. Isaiah 13:8. So who's working tomorrow versus who's chilling And who's near the path of where they can see at least part of the eclipse tomorrow? Who's there? Let's see. And they shall be afraid, pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them, and they shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth, and they shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. But the day of the Lord cometh, cruel be. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Let me share this. Thank you, Shaquila. My bad, y'all. Here we go. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go up a little bit. I'm gonna go up a little bit. Actually, I can start at the first of this. Isaiah 13. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah, I read about Babylon last week, y'all. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift you up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms, of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Wow. Wow. Mm, 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 mm. I keep going there, y'all. These are prophecies. These are ancient prophecies that have yet to be fulfilled, and they're knocking on the door. Powerful scriptures, Anye. That's correct. That is correct. So, y'all, what's written is gonna happen, and ain't nothing anybody can do about it. Ain't nothing anybody can do about it. Just understand what these prophecies are, and understand who you are. Hotshot said, "Thanks for reading Isaiah. You're greatly appreciated." I appreciate you, Hotshot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, y'all. Listen, stay high vibrational. I gave y'all the example in the beginning. Stay high vibrational. High vibrational had a bumblebee come and chase away a wasp and a yellow jacket away from our presence. I didn't have to get nothing in fan. I didn't have to swat at it. All I had to do was just walk and will. I don't want this. I don't want this wasp near me. I don't want this yellow jacket near me. Here come the bumblebee. Yo, fall back off my boy. Matter of fact, get all the way up out this yard. Yeah, you too, by the way, yellow jacket, I'm coming for you. That's power, y'all. You got to get that soundboard. I know. I got it. I'm gonna work on it. I'm working on it. Torgo said, I took off tomorrow. I'm not in the path, but I wanted to be in the energy and not be stressed. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be outside. I did a lot of my yard work today. I'll be out there, probably some shorts, no shoes. I'm probably not even gonna wear a shirt. I want to soak in I want to soak in as much as that over every inch, every place where every melanated piece of my body. I want, as is reasonable. I mean, yeah, I got a privacy fence, but still, it is what it is. So yeah, family, it's this been a good one. Look, y'all get in that writings of Flavius Josephus. That's your history. And again, that ties back to when you read the siege of Jotapota and you read the siege of Jerusalem, those tie right back into Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. It's right there. Y'all. Stop looking at these images that are drawn, and y'all know Shakespeare was a brother. They tell you all that history's out there. That's out there. William Shakespeare was a brother. When you read, in fact, when you read the Antiquities of the Jews and you hear about Herod and how he lost his mind and started like killing people in his family and stuff like that, that's the story of Othello. Now, there was something that was floating around social media, I want to say a year or two ago, where they found out that Shakespeare, the inspiration behind his writings was a little chocolate Hebrew girl. A little chocolate melanated princess was the one that was the genius behind Shakespeare's writings. But then you find out later that Shakespeare's a brother. Y'all, all of this truth is coming out now. Jeremiah 16 and 19. O Lord, my strength, my refuge, and my fortress. In the day of their affliction, The Gentiles shall come into thee from the ends of the earth and say, surely our fathers have inherited lies. I that's got to be rough, man. That's got to be rough to go your whole life and find out later that you were lied to by your predecessors. That's that's gonna be a sad day. That's gonna be a sad day, y'all. But it is what it is. We got to continue to show love, stay high vibrational, and ride this thing through. It's a transition. It's a transition. The Earth goes through these cycles every so many thousands of years. Some people say 6,000 years. I've heard people say every 6,000 years there's a mass extinction event or a massive purge and reset. I don't know what those numbers are. It's really not all that relevant because I'm about being present. So stay present, y'all. Don't worry. Don't be thinking too far into the future. What's going to happen tomorrow? Whatever. Stay present. The power is in the present. Yes, whatever happened 5 minutes ago is gone, and 5 minutes from now ain't here. Be present. Be present. Just be, y'all. So he said you could turn those great lessons into a great show. Popcorn, yellow stripes, smile. I appreciate it. Grounding. That's what I'm doing, Anye. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So y'all, yeah, you do. You got ideas for years, bro. You got ideas for years. So that's about all I got for y'all, man. I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for joining tonight. I wanted to give y'all that something special. I wanted to read for y'all that online version, that the ebook version of it. Some of the writing is, I know it was translated because Josephus didn't write in English, or Ben Matthew, he didn't write in English. Okay, he wrote that probably in Latin, and it was translated. And that's just an interesting history when I read about how he was so hated by his own people, and they saw him as a turncoat. But again, if the Most High doesn't send him here to be, if he's anything other than who he was, we're not reading his history 1,900 some odd years later. We're not reading it. We're not reading it. That history gets missed. So we got to stop judging y'all, because everybody comes here to play a different role. Everybody's got a different assignment they have to do. For those of you who haven't seen it, I did a breakdown of Samson and Delilah, and I took some of that from the Antiquities of the Jews. So I went back and forth between the Old Testament books, I believe it's Judges, and then the Antiquities. In reading this narrative, I used the two together. Samson and Delilah story. A lot of people say, man, Samson died because he sold out and went with that Philistine woman, Dogon woman. Philistine, Dogon. Just so y'all know, the original Philistines, they're still here on the earth today in the form of the Dogon tribe in Africa. All right. Those are the descendants of those early Philistines. Stop getting caught up in the what you call it. All right. Those are the Philistines, the Dogons, okay? And they still do what they did back then and who they worship and all of this. And it's related to the cosmos and the dog star and all Sirius being all. This stuff is history has been so twisted by the conquering party, but that's the ending. That's ending. So anyway, Samson, and man, he got killed because he sold out. Man, he could have had anybody he wanted. Man, the Israelite women is fine. Man, he could have had an Israelite woman. Why you go to the Philistine women? When you read the scripture and you know what you're reading, it says God put that in him because he had occasion against the Philistines. He had occasion against them. So he came here with that taste for Philistine women so that he could do exactly what he did, which was bring that temple down on whoever was in there that needed to get dealt with, that was too punk to come to the battlefield. Most High said, all right, okay, I see you. You ain't gonna come out and fight where I can get you on the battlefield. I'm gonna send my fighter in there to get you. Yeah, you're gonna take his eyes out. He got one. He came here to do one thing. And once he does it, he gonna check back in. He gonna get his little awards. He gonna get his rest, and he gonna get another assignment. The soul is eternal, y'all. Don't let anybody tell you any different. The soul is eternal. So thank y'all. Anya, thank you. Y'all got number love. That's my sister. That's my soul sister, y'all. I rise for Anya. Okay. Hotshot said, keep on twisting the history for us. I'll be present for the lessons. Thank y'all so much. Listen, I'm gonna end this one like I end them all. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button on your way out. And for those of you who are new to the channel, you like being entertained, educated, uplifted, inspired, hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn that notification bell to all. And last but not least, y'all. Wait, before I get to last but not least, just in case something stupid go down, whatever, and then we ain't got no internet for a while, y'all, we all gonna be in the same boat, all right? But y'all remember these lessons, okay? But I think we're gonna be all right. So If we all right after this, see, you know, they trying to shoot rockets at a. What be wrong with people, man? What be wrong with them? Like I said before, that's my son too. I don't want no rockets fired at you. Why are you firing rockets at my son? That's all our son. Who made you an authority? Who made you an authority, Bill Gates, to inject some doctor up some Frankensteinish mosquitoes and release them into the public in South America? Nah. Stop spraying my sky with them planes, man. That's my sky too. This what blows my mind, y'all. This is why these celestials are coming back and going to war against some of these demonic entities that got flesh suits on, but it ain't no light in them. This is why. I'm gonna end this now, but I'm just saying they are running the show, and they running the show on the ground, and the earth crying out. The earth like, all right, yeah, you got to get them up out of here. They doing too much. Spraying the sky for what? I like my sky. I like to be able to see the clear blue sky. And if they're real rain clouds, I get it. I don't like them artificial jammies y'all shooting out the back of them planes. Why? Who authorized you to spray over my piece of the sky? Y'all who the Most High coming for? Who authorized you to inject some mosquitoes? Y'all who the Most High coming for? Who authorized you to build some machine and try to blast into some other dimensions? Y'all who the Most High coming for? Who authorized you to shoot 3 rockets and name them after some serpent deity and shoot them at something you didn't build? Y'all who the Most High coming for? So the rest of y'all, the rest of us, we all right, man. Y'all enjoy the show. Y'all enjoy the show. He said sealed. He said sealed. He said those are sealed. Are you sealed? If you sealed, you ain't got nothing to worry about. If you high vibrational, you ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna go, y'all. Cause me and a family member were talking about this earlier today. Each and every soul on this planet has a frequency. They have a frequency. Forget your name. People change names and stuff to try to hide their identity and stuff like that. People change names, but guess what? The realm of the divine don't care nothing about your name. You can change it 100 times. You have a unique numeric soul frequency that is assigned to you. It's unique. And guess what? Those frequency numbers of the righteous and the wicked have been recorded. So when the hunters come and the fishers come, the hunters going to do what they do and the fishers going to do what they do. When them warrior angels get released, when that trumpet gets sounded, they looking on their list. He's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's going to find out who's naughty or nice. It ain't no name. It's a frequency. If your frequency is listed as wicked, you're going to get dealt with. If your frequency is listed as righteous, you're going to be all right. That's why y'all can just listen. If you know you're righteous, just be chill. You ain't got nothing to be afraid of. Just be chill. You good. You good. Welcome what's coming. If you righteous, welcome what's coming, because you finally gonna get the soul that is you is finally gonna get some peace after however many lifetimes of this BS right here. All right. He said, "Pray everyone is safe. Hope we meet again." Yeah, we will. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. The soul is eternal. Hotshot said they are hilarious. The Most High got this. So I love y'all, man. Listen, y'all tell somebody you love them and mean it. How do you mean it? You have to show it. All right. Love is a verb. It's a noun as well. But when we focus on the verb, the noun always takes care of itself. Love you guys. Peace, family. Where is my star? There we go.